It's showtime, folks!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. And as you can see, we are going to the wrestling ring, and we're going to talk some WWE Draft in particular. We're going to talk about the new rules and how I think the presentation of the draft should be. This is going to be very fun if WWE does it right, excuse me. This has the potential to be great. So let's hop right into the discussion. First, we're going to look at the rules. I gotta say that when I saw these rules initially, there were a few of them that I didn't agree with and that I didn't quite like. So let's hop into the first one. Okay, first of all, Raw has the first overall pick. Okay, I don't really like that because I mean there should be an arbitrary way of determining the first overall pick, much like there is in real sports, actual football, basketball, or whatever the case may be. It also gives a kind of a vibe that Raw is the best show and SmackDown is the show below it, and I don't like that. You know, maybe we could come to an arbitrary way and Raw gets the overall pick. So after all, and that just so happens to be the case. But I don't initially like them just giving Raw the first overall pick. Moving on, there's this complicated rule that since SmackDown is a 2-hour show and Raw is 3 hours, for every 2 picks that SmackDown receives, Raw receives 3 picks. I mean, I understand the logic in that, but we're talking about 2 shows that should be on equal footing. I mean, it shouldn't matter that Raw is 3 hours. I mean, SmackDown, they've built this new live show up as an equal to Raw, and that's what it should be. But with that said, I guess the format, if we're gonna go that way, I guess the format should be Raw with the first overall pick, and SmackDown should have picks 2 and 3, with Raw having picks 4, 5, and 6, and so on and so on and so on. I'm not a big fan of that, but since they're going that way, that's the order that they should go in. Moving on to another rule. Tag teams count as 1 pick unless a commissioner/general manager specifically only wants 1 member of the team. Now, I like that tag teams count as 1 pick. I'm all in for that one. I'm not sure why a commissioner would only want 1 member of the team when you can have 2, but that's the rules that we're rolling with. So I guess so. But I like that tag teams count as 1 pick. I'm in on that. Moving on, 6 draft picks will be made off the NXT roster. Okay, I'm a fan of NXT being involved in this draft, so count me in on that one as well. I mean, just thinking about a few picks, I'd like to see Bayley, Balor, and Nakamura. Sorry, I couldn't get that out. And Team Alpha be included in those picks. I would love to see that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out, to see which picks will be taken from NXT, because I mean that's not exactly a thin roster, but it's going to be tough if they lose their big names off of that roster. So moving on, those are the rules, and I want to move into something else, and that is I want to talk about how the show should be presented. This could be a grand thing if WWE just does it right. This could be excellent or it could be horrible. But first of all, let's hop right into the first thing that I think should happen. First, I think there should be a 1 hour pre-show on the WWE Network where we get who could we get in there? We could get Corey Graves in there. We could get, anyone in there. We could get Daniel Bryan in there to talk about the accolades of all of the wrestlers. We can get different wrestlers in a panel to talk about all of the accolades of the draftees that are involved in this. Somebody can play the Mel Kiper role, the Todd, what's his name? Todd McShay role, and we can have dueling debates and who should be the number one pick, and I think that would be fantastic. I would actually watch that if they talk about all of the picks and they talked about what value they would bring to each brand. I think that would be awesome. Next up, let's talk about the show itself. Now, in the first hour, I think that there should be very little wrestling in the first hour, because the way I'd like to see it set up is that we come into the show, fireworks, pyro everywhere, and we have a timer at the bottom of the screen counting down from 1 hour. We have Michael Cole announce that the draft is going to be in the 8 o'clock hour, the 9 o'clock Eastern hour, that is. So we have all that time to build up to the draft. So in that first hour, we can have a couple promos. We can have a match or two there. But what I'd really like to see in that first hour is that I'd really like to see interviews with the wrestlers about the draft. Now, we can drop all kayfabe in this draft. In these interviews, excuse me. Like, I don't particularly want to see somebody playing a character. I just want somebody's honest answer about why they belong as the top pick, and which show they would prefer to be on, and various other things. I think that would be great for the first hour. So, moving on, I'd also like to see, in that first hour, I'd like to see a look into the draft rooms. I think they should go full NFL here. It would be fantastic if they did that. We should have a look into the locker rooms. We have a look into Stephanie's locker room with her commissioner, and Shane with his commissioner. Have a look into the locker rooms, talking over strategy and who should be first pick and what kind of rosters that they should put together. I think that would be a fantastic first hour. I think it'd fly by also. Should also have them looking at a board that could be their draft board. We don't have to have the camera on the draft board exactly, but we should have them, looking at what they would like to do. Moving on and moving into the second hour, around the 8:55 Eastern mark, I would run a commercial, come out for that commercial break, and on that entrance, instead of running a normal playback into the show, I would run a graphic and music just like they run at the beginning of the show. But here's what I would do. In those graphics, I would take old draft moments. Say like when Vince drafted The Rock first, or when Triple H got drafted to SmackDown, or when JR got drafted. I would run all of those old graphics, and it would just set the stage for what's about to happen, because the draft is about to get ready to begin in the second hour. The timer has been counting down and counting down, and when that entire package gets done, the timer is going to hit 0. We're going to have the pyro once again come out, and to lead us to the draft, we're going to have Vince McMahon come out, and he's going to do his best Roger Goodell impersonation. He's going to welcome us to the draft, and he's going to talk about the rules. He's going to talk about the wrestlers, and I think that would be a fantastic open. All right, moving into the draft. First of all, from this point on, I don't want any wrestling. Wrestling is done in this show. I mean, in a real draft, NFL and basketball. Look, when the draft starts, I don't want to see anybody playing basketball or playing football in the middle of the draft, or cutting into somebody playing football in the draft. No. All right, this is the draft, and we should take it serious. We should take it as much. This is the draft. Also, the whole deal where we have a slated list of wrestlers to be drafted, and we only select but a few of them on the show, that has to go out of the window. Look, I want the entire draft done. Now, with that said, if they want to do the deal to where when somebody gets drafted, they want to run their if they want to run their old wrestling highlights when they're making their way to the ring, then I'm cool with that. But moving on, I think we have to eliminate the randomization picks. Like, we'd have the times where some picks would be made arbitrarily, and we'd have those drafts where we'd cut to the big screen, and it'll be this big randomization of this machine, and then voila, somebody's drafted to SmackDown, somebody's drafted to Raw. No, that has to go out of the window. In 1 hour, I think we could draft all of these wrestlers. I think they really could, and that's what I would like to see. See, I'm the type of person that when all of these drafts come around, I watch the entire thing. Like the NFL draft, I'm the person that watches all 7 rounds, all the way to the Mr. Irrelevant pick. I watch it, and I would watch this draft as we have a long list of wrestlers, but I think we can get this done in 1 hour. However, it would be a nice marketing tool if they were to say, we're going to do this draft in 1 hour, and if we go long, you can join us on the WWE Network to finish out the draft. Either way, I would be good with that. Moving on, with the way the draft is set up, Raw would have the first pick, and SmackDown, I mean, this is just how I would do the order, but if they go with this way, Raw would have the first pick. If SmackDown has the second and third pick, I would run a situation to where the second and third pick would be a feud between the two guys. Like, say if just by example, say if they drafted Cena second and AJ Styles third, they could make their way to the ring, and we could have a face-off in the middle of the ring. And if the Bullet Club wants to hashtag beat up John Cena, they can have that. And I mean, I don't know if we could also have somebody make the save. I mean, that could just be something extra added in. All right, moving on into the picks. This is more complicated than trying to figure out the NFL and the NBA draft. I mean, not only do you, I mean, we talk about the number one overall pick. I mean, most would go off of their own logic, but I mean, we're talking about a scripted draft, so maybe we have to throw in WWE's logic into this somehow, and I don't know how we do that, but I'm one that thinks that the number one overall pick should be the top guy. And I mean, technically the top guy wears the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And I mean, I know some would say that Dean Ambrose, really isn't the top guy in the pecking order in WWE, but the guy has the belt. So to legitimize this draft, I think you have to take the WWE champion first. So with that first pick, I think Dean Ambrose should go to Raw. However, God, it's really tough because, once again, thinking about WWE's logic, it's really tough for me to think that either Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar won't go with that first overall pick. I mean, everything tells me with the way that they book those two guys that they want them on Raw. So here's my guess. I'm gonna say that Brock Lesnar goes number one overall to Raw. And moving on to 2 and 3. Tough decisions. I'm gonna go with Roman Reigns at number 2. Wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry, but scratch that. Look, I have changed my mind. Brock at 1. I'm gonna go with Cena at 2. They're gonna take John Cena at 2. That's just my opinion. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Roman Reigns. Okay, Lesnar would go to Raw. Cena and Ambrose would be the back-to-back picks for SmackDown in my order. And now we have 4, 5, and 6 for Raw. 4, I'd go Reigns. 5, I'd go Rollins. And 6, I'd go Randy Orton. And from there, we'd have SmackDown to get their back-to-back picks. And at 7 and 8, I'd go AJ Styles and I'd go Gallows and Anderson as a tag team. So they'd be one pick. So you'd have the entire club on SmackDown. Looking at 9 and 10, and I won't go any further past 10 because I'm already up to a lot of time here. I'm past time, so I'm just gonna go 9 and 10. For Raw, at 9, I'd go The New Day, and at 10, I'd go Bray Wyatt. And I have no idea why they have the Wyatt family split up, but they have them as separate picks. So at 10, I'm just taking Bray Wyatt. So here's my top 10. Okay, for Raw, I have Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, The New Day, and Bray Wyatt. For SmackDown in the top 10, I have John Cena, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, Bullet Club, or The Club, And yeah, that's all I have in the top 10 for them. So I mean, I'm very much looking forward to this. This could be really exciting, and I mean, I'll try to keep my expectations tempered. I'll just expect the worst, but hope for the best. But I'm ready to see this happen. This could be an exciting night, and it could be a blast and a great first show for SmackDown Live. So I hope it goes great. And one more thing before I close. The reason why I didn't have all 3 Shield members on one show is because one of those guys has to go. You can't have all of those guys on one show. That's just too much talent amongst those 3. One of those guys has to be the one to go to SmackDown, just in my humble opinion. So moving on, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. I mean, I had an excellent time talking about this, and I think I'll have a greater time watching Raw and getting ready for the draft on Tuesday and watching the draft. So feel free to comment on this page, like this page, or subscribe to this page, and also feel free to follow me on Twitter at Swiss Army Knife 4. Thank you.